Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inventory Mind. Thank you for joining me. My name is Kayani. I'm an intellectual property and business law attorney. What that means is I do trademarks, copyright, patents, patent due diligence, and those are federal stuff. So I help clients from all over the world. And then I also create LLCs, corporations, those business contracts, all of that. And that's usually California based because I'm in California, I'm licensed in California. So, so today I have another interview with somebody that I have met because I was writing a book chapter, and Courtney, actually was the project manager for that book chapter that I was writing for organization part of California Lawyers Association, one of their editions they are trying to update. So I thought, and the funny thing is she lives in Chicago. I'm in Southern California, and I think we are now really are going virtual. So I thought she will be a great person to have today to kind of chat about. She's going to give us some tips about launching a book, how the strategies for it, how to manage a project, tips to how to organize a project, what she does. And so thank you for joining. And again, like I have said in my other videos, these for educational, informational purposes only. If you have specific questions, please connect with a professional. If you like to connect with Courtney or me, I will put the information below. And with that, we will get started. Courtney, thank you so much for joining me from Chicago.
Yes, hi, Gayani. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's like, I'm so funny because, we actually haven't actually met in person, like, or even virtually, other than I think couple of calls we had beginning of the project.
Right.
So, and we started that project last year. I
Right.
think, year before. I know this time is kind of becoming tricky right now, I feel like.
For sure.
So I wanted to kind of ask, it's really nice to connect with you, and thank you for giving us the time to kind of share your knowledge and your expertise. And my community is about bringing information and professionals and entrepreneurs and what they're doing, and kind of sharing for those who might be interested or trying to find certain type of services, all of that. So with that, I will ask you, how did you come out to be a project manager? What's your path? What does it mean to be a project manager?
Sure.
Kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on how what's your training is like.
Sure. Well, I spent 16 years as a project manager in technology corporations. So
Wow.
actually, as after I graduated from university, I ended up working for a company, and I actually started out recruiting. So I was recruiting engineers and software developers, and I started to get really interested in how projects worked, and I started to take some classes about project management, and from there I just fell in love with it and decided to pursue more formal education on it and got a lot of work experience. So with my company, I managed large global projects and got to do a lot of traveling. So I really had a great early start to my career. And then after doing it for a number of years, it's pretty stressful, and I started to get a little bit burned out and decided I wanted to change and try to, I had thought for years about writing a book, and it was always something I thought about doing when I got the time someday. And then
Okay.
yeah, I ended up getting laid off in 2015, and I had some time to kind of think about what's my next step? What do I want to do? And I had just, had always wanted to try writing. So I took a few months and started to immerse myself in the world of books and publishing. And I just really picked it up really fast, and I had a lot of fun writing. And so I decided to take everything I knew about project management and blend it with writing and publishing. And I basically created my own kind of job, I guess. I'm a book launch strategist. So if you're an author or a business owner or part of a company and you want to launch a book or create a book with many authors like we did with CLA, so I work with the author or the company to put together a project plan and figure out how do we get all of this work done, and then help the author or the company actually publish the book and launch it.
I mean, I think it's so necessary, especially like the project we were doing. I think I might be wrong. You probably get a number right. It's like 10, 15 attorneys, I think, involved, least. Like it
There
felt
were
like a
a number. There were over 40.
yeah, see, I underestimated. I
Yeah,
just knew that all of us were right in different sections. And
right,
so you're talking about multiple deadlines, multiple people, multiple communications. So
right,
I could see how that could be very stressful. So,
right.
but it's necessary, right? Somebody had to be there to kind of keep track of everything. So,
Mhm.
so do you want to talk about how one of the things that before we get to the strategies, 5 things, I wanted to kind of know what kind of personality you think like be a good fit for this kind of work, like a project manager.
Type of personality. Well, I think somebody who's very driven and who can um, really take the initiative to, especially somebody who likes to organize and plan. Those are always great skills to have. Um, and I think it depends on what part you're doing, because I'm certainly in more of an introverted person, and I'm not necessarily someone that wants to jump into the spotlight and lead a team or lead a company. I kind of like to work behind the scenes, but it's not, I think there are many different personality types that are very suitable to project management. And I think you do have to have some kind of a bit of a drive or an entrepreneurial spirit, or somebody who's very proactive. I think those are great, great things to make sure you have if you're wanting to go the project management road.
So I do know that like I was in biopharma, we have project managers for each of our teams, and I know that happens also in research and science. So, but I think what you bring to the table is like these other sides. That's a different kind of project manager than, but there's some overlap. Obviously, you're
Mhm.
running a project. Um, so I think the book launch strategist as a book project manager, you're hiring a book. What does that exactly kind of entail for you, like your business? Because I do think it could be a different based on what you're looking for and who you're looking for, right? So
Right. Right. So when I'm working with an organization, a company or an association, it might be, here's an idea. We want to write a book on this topic. Now let's get many authors together and write and publish that. So that's one example. But another example, I have many authors come to me, and they may already run a profitable business, like a nutrition blog, or one of my clients runs a meditation business where she teaches people to meditate. So many times they're coming to me and they have a deal with a traditional publisher, such as HarperCollins or Simon and Schuster, and so they are in the writing process and they're working with their editors at the publisher, but they don't necessarily know how to launch and market a book, and that's where I come in to help. So I work with them to look at what their goals are, because the goals will be different for many people. Your book, for your own business, your book can be an excellent lead generation tool. So a way to get out your knowledge and expertise out in book form and bring in new clients or new customers. And so that's definitely a great goal to have with a book launch. But then other authors I've worked with have a goal where they want to try to hit a bestseller list. So there's actually a definite strategy of how to do that. So I've had my clients have hit Wall Street Journal and New York Times and USA Today bestseller lists. However, it's, you know, you have to reach a certain number of sales and work at it for many, many months and do a lot of planning to get to that point.
So, do you also work with self-publishing people, or is mostly people with traditional publication?
I do, yes. I work with both, and I'm actually a self-published author myself.
Okay,
So yeah, I'm very familiar with the whole world of um,
publications.
it is, yeah, and even then, it's very similar. So people who are working with a big publisher and people who are actually self-publishing, it's very similar the way that you market books. So there's actually it's an interesting view that I have a view into both worlds, because a lot of what the traditional publishers do is really smart, and they've been doing it, you know, they've been marketing books for years and years, and so I can take a lot of what they do and apply that to the self-publishing world.
So, did you, so, I know one of the biggest self-publishing format is like Amazon, right? So, have you worked with Amazon like publishing, or is your book on there, or is it a different type of a self-publishing, you
So
know?
yeah, there are several ways you can self-publish. So Amazon is a self-publishing platform, and I recommend everybody use it, because everyone who's self-publishing and all traditionally published books as well, because Amazon is the #1 place where people shop for books, whether it's ebook format or paperback or hardcover. So you definitely always want to be on Amazon, and it's really easy to self-publish on with their tools nowadays. It used to be harder. It's getting much easier. You can manage your own accounts. It's really cool. And then you can also, there are ways that you can publish to other places like Barnes and Noble. You can publish so ebooks, you can publish to other companies like Kobo, which is a Canadian company, and they're all over. Apple Books, there are ways to get on there as well. So there are many options, and also for books, when you know many people want to have the book in their hands and have the paperback or a hardcover copy, you can use a company called Spark Ingram and print through there, and it's on demand printing, so you don't have to, you know, have 1,000 copies made and then put them in your garage. You know, it can be done on a on demand basis, which is great. I really think there's never been a better time to be an author than now, because there are just so many, the technology has gotten so good. You have an ability to make a lot more money. So if you, on Amazon, for example, if you have a book that you price at, let's say, $9.99, you make for every sale, you make actually 70% of the commission. Whereas if you were traditionally published, you're probably making about 10 to 15%. So it's quite a difference. And if you get a bestseller, you can do really well with self-publishing.
So I love that. This is such an interesting discussion, because I could ask you so many questions, but what I'm going to do is, because you have 5 tips for some book launch strategies, and tips for stay organized. So I'm going to lend you to start with the tips, and then I will jump in and ask some questions from there.
Okay, sure. So I guess when it comes to book launches, there are a lot of moving parts. So whether or not you're traditionally published or self-publishing, when you start to think about your book idea, you should probably also start to think about building an email list, um, starting to think about how you might promote your book, whether it, you know, podcast interviews are a great way and interviews like this on YouTube are great to get, get the word out about your book, especially when it's launching. So it's always good to start planning ahead and making sure you're putting in place things that will help you eventually market your book. Another thing to realize is even if you do manage to get an agent and a publishing deal, the marketing of your book actually falls to the author. So a lot of people think, well, if I have a publisher, they'll do all the marketing, they'll do all the work, but it doesn't actually work that way. With every author I've worked with, they are actually having to, promote the book to their email list, to their social media platforms. And sometimes the publisher has, a newsletter list, but it's not really designed. They're there to actually print the books and get them edited and get them out to stores. But the marketing part is not really part of what they do.
Oh, I did not know that. So this is why I love like having these interviews, because I learn so much when I'm talking to others and entrepreneurs. And the other thing I was going to say before we get to the next step is that I love that you created your own job description that you were saying you kind of became this book launch strategist, because I think that's the entrepreneurial side, right? There's a need, obvious need. I mean, I'm going through a public, like even to get that information, what you just shared, that the publisher wouldn't be the one who's doing marketing. It's like, that's why you have a strategist. So, like you. So yeah, let's get to the next step.
Sure. So another thing, a secret about bestseller lists is that, so what I recommend is a pre-order phase. So if the book will have a publishing date, but you can, even as a self-publisher, you can set your book, as long as you have the cover and a description, you can put your pre-order, your actual publish date out into the future, and you can set it up so that people can automatically start buying your book. So on Amazon, for example, they can pre-order it before it comes out. And what is a little known secret is that all of those pre-orders count towards your publishing date. So if you, and then that's why I always recommend you start to promote your book before it's even published and have people buying, because it starts to get word of mouth out. And also, this is what publishers do. So so let's say I have a book that's coming out in February. If I manage to sell 5,000 copies before the book even comes out, it builds up like a wave of orders. So all of those 5,000 sales will count on the week of my publishing date. And so if I sell another 1,000 that week, that's something like 6,000 books. And that actually puts you in contention for some of the bestseller lists, just based on the number of sales. So that is something you can think about as you're strategizing on your launch. And then I guess one other thing, if you're writing a book, it's all about having a plan. So deadlines.
It's why we have somebody like you, right? Like that's where you really, I think, having a project manager who has strategists is such a key for success. Just like having a coach, right? Because you
Right.
just kind of that could help you with that pacing. So
Exactly. Yep. And if you're working with many authors, like if you decide to, you want to write a book and draw on, this is a great way to collaborate with other attorneys or other business owners and come together and write a book. It's always great. You can set little milestones or checkpoints, like we did with CLA. It was, first checkpoint is you write the outline, and then you write half of the draft, and then you finish the draft. So it just gives people little milestones to meet, rather than our usual fallback. Most people will kind of wait till the last minute. So
yeah, I think it's especially with attorneys, like with the deadlines, it's kind of it's good to have those soft deadlines, because it's kind of keep reminding you, yes, you need to get
Right.
this out, and this is the part. I appreciated the promptings that you sent, especially, and it's funny because I mentioned this to Renee on her interview I did today also, which I will post. Renee Stackhouse, there's going to be the interviews attorney who is part of this group, who's the one of the leaders for this publication. So I was telling her, like, I had trouble with some of the writing because of COVID-19. What happened? Because I kind of went into a phase where I had trouble focusing and staying focused to write, just because shelter in the place. I'm such a social butterfly, my mom would
Yeah.
call me, that I'm used to like being out there, and then when I focus, I focus. But the fact that now that I'm all mostly in the house, and I now had to kind of, like, I feel like I'm always like, in a solitude almost. That was challenging because I had like kind of lost that focus too. And
Yes.
and that was challenging. So I think, having those soft deadlines help, because also kind of knowing that we could be a little bit flexible.
Right.
you know I'm sorry, I'm messing with my hair. It's just something I do sometimes when I'm talking. I don't even pay attention to.
I do too.
So it's like, but anyways, so the next, I don't know, I think you already went through like 4 or 5 tips. Did you have one more thing to add, or that's a
Um,
lot of information?
yeah, I think, um, yeah, I think just to your point of, it definitely was a struggle to finish the project during COVID. And I think all of us were in different mental states at different times. So it was a challenge, but I think just to the credit of everyone involved, everyone stayed strong and got it done. And I think it's going to be a really helpful book. I'm so excited for it to come out. And I think that we just have to also, with project management, I talk a lot about deadlines and milestones, but I think we also have to build in some flexibility and some open-mindedness, just to know that things can change and not everything will go according to plan. And that's okay. And you adjust. And I think that's the secret weapon of project management, is you do the best you can and you try to plan as much as you can. But when you can adapt and be open-minded and flexible, that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think when we started this project, which was probably like 2 years ago, I'm guessing now when I'm thinking about it, I don't think we realized we're going to be in COVID-19 when the deadlines were like really the final chapters were due, the final drafts were due. So I
Right.
think that was the funny thing is, because we sometimes wait until the last minute. Of course, the final deadlines were beginning of this year in March, and then I know it got moved a little bit because of COVID-19. So
Right.
so
Yeah,
yeah, like they expect the unexpected.
definitely. And
So
sometimes the unexpected can be good in a way. I mean, I think that extra time allowed a few people to finish and maybe they wouldn't have finished. And I think it's going to be just such a better book for having it complete. So
yeah, I think so. I think it's also looking at some things that happen as opportunity, right? Instead of
right.
a challenge. So I think it's the mindset reset.
Exactly.
So um like I think and I think that goes to also the staying organized that you were talking about, right? Any other tips for people who are trying to stay organized, especially entrepreneurs?
Sure. Well, I think one of my secret weapons that's worked really well is a weekly planning session. And so for me, I do this on Sunday evenings. You can do it whenever time makes sense for you, but it's a time when you actually, look at your goals for the month, make sure that they still make sense. And then also, what are your goals for the coming week? And really taking those weekly goals, making them realistic, and actually then scheduling them onto your calendar, and trying to use that morning time as your creative or deep work time. For me, it kind of depends. If you're more of a night person, you might want that to be later, but I find my brain is freshest in the morning, so I try to do writing and creative things in the morning.
I agree. So I'm as an entrepreneur and as an attorney, I have I have client work I need to get done, and then I have these things I'm doing, networking and business development. I find it that if you could at least pick one day out of the week where you kind of plan out your week and see where you are, it's really help instead of it's being in your head.
Yes.
So I know some people use platforms like Trello. Do you use any of type of platform, or are you a old school person? Like I kind of do old school. I have a notebook.
I do. I do have a Trello list. So I call it my brain dump list, because I'm a big fan of the Getting Things Done. It's a book that talks about, email management and just organizing. And the author talks about when you have ideas, getting them out of your head and onto a list frees your thinking space. So I do keep a list in Trello and try to look at that and make sure I'm addressing things, but I really try to focus on 3 goals a week, because if I have too many, I'll just, kind of get overwhelmed, but I try to have, 3 big things I want to get done that week. So that helps.
I love that because yeah, I think one of the challenges I have is I tend to like make huge list. I have started being better at this where I will put like 15 things on a list, and then you are constantly kind of feeling overwhelmed. So I think I like what you said, getting 3 things done, like must have. So I have something similar. These days I have like 5 things must have, like each day. That's something I must do that day for like business purpose. And the rest of it is kind of a play that
Nice.
if I get it done, I get it done. If I don't, I move it to the next week where I have to get it done. So
Yeah.
it's and that's why like when I wrote my chapter for this book we were talking about, I saw your emails and I will be like put it in my list and it will move up and down.
I
But I
totally
knew the
understand.
absolute deadline you sent like when you really absolutely need it, and that was very helpful. Because I literally waited until the absolute deadline to finish it
Yeah.
because of that moving things around. So
Yeah. I love that.
it's
Yeah. I love just ha- getting those critical things done. And then the other items are kind of like bonuses if you can do them.
exactly. And I think when you're professional, like when you have like these, you're running your own business, you have must haves, like must done, like you have to get it done. Like there's no excuse. There's deadlines that, it's a big issue. But then there's other things that have a deadline, but they're moving deadline, kind of almost like you could put your soft deadlines and then kind of follow up. So that's my
Yeah.
2 bits. So Courtney, tell me, so because I always end my talks with people about asking them what do they have like a mindfulness type of practice or something that help them to de-stress. Basically, the idea is what do you do to stay sane and not be too overwhelmed, or when you're stressed out, or do you have like a daily practice or something that you do?
Yes, I meditate every day in the mornings. And it's actually a fun story because I mentioned one of my book launch clients is a meditation teacher.
Okay.
And so I actually, when I worked with her, I actually learned her technique. Her name is Emily Fletcher.
Oh,
And
I'm in her class on Mind
oh,
Valley. This is such a
yes,
small world. I love her. Like I'm doing the M word right now.
yes. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Yes, that I would say the Ziva meditation was a game changer. I can make decisions faster and I'm more productive. I can juggle more things. It really, I mean, I think everybody should take her class.
So it's wow, such a small world. It's so funny because I just joined. So I did Mind Valley stuff before, and maybe
Yeah.
depending on time, I will just say add this, and then we will end this interview, and maybe do
Sure.
another one about meditation. Um, but I do have to say that I love that Mind Valley. I joined the Quest app, the all access part, just last month. So I am literally going through her days, and I think I missed a couple of her because it's 33-day program for
Yeah.
the M Word program they have is teaching you how to meditate. And I do meditation. I meditate every day, but I'm always learning things. So I think I try different things to kind of fine tune and take things I like and improve upon other things. So yeah, I'm like in the middle of this class right
Oh,
now.
wow. Excellent.
Yeah. So I love it. So yeah, I highly recommend meditation, and Emily Fletcher and Ziva Meditation and the Mind Valley. Um, Highly recommend it. It's really fun program. I'm enjoying it. So
Excellent.
wow, talking about book authors. Okay, thank you, Courtney. Thank you for everybody who joined us in this discussion. And it's kind of a spontaneous discussion in the end. This is what I love about doing these kind of interviews. I'm learning things and having a more of a organic discussion. So um, if you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. I will put Courtney's information below, and maybe even Emily Fletcher's info for anybody who is interested in Mind Valley or Ziva Meditation. So they could check that information out. And until next time, thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Kayani.